Hi and welcome to the August Masterclass. My name is Sofie and today we are going to talk about how we can sort out the information we get, mostly during the bidding, but also a little bit during the play. This is a bit of a more difficult masterclass, and you might feel that this is too difficult. What you can do then is to try and focus on a few of the things I'm talking about today and then work through it eventually. So don't lose all hope just because it feels difficult, and also maybe you see that when you're listening to the presentation it feels fine, it all makes sense, but then you start playing and it's just way too much information. That's also fine. Again, just try and focus on some of the things, and if we can get some of the information from the bidding, that's better than getting nothing. So just start somewhere. So we're going to talk about both from the defending side and from the declarer side, and we'll look a little bit starting at the defense. So one of the first things we should think about is, did they open or not? Because if they didn't open, if they were pre-passed, they usually have at most 11 high card points. And then on the other side, if they did open, they usually have at least 11 high card points. But there are some people who open more aggressively, especially with a good distribution. And we do have to remember that in third hand, some people open quite aggressively. So there the rules might not apply. But in a normal opening, people usually have at least 11 high card points when they open. And then we can look at whether or not they bid game, because if opponents bid game, they normally have somewhere around at least 25 high card points together. So if they stopped underneath game, they probably don't have that much. So we should expect our partner to have more of the points, but if they bid game, our partner probably have less points. And something that can make things even clearer is if one player made an invite. If the other player accepted, we can assume that that player has a maximum, but if the other player, or if the other player invites it and they decline and they just pass the invite, they probably have a minimum. So for example, if opener opens 1 no trump and the next player bids 2 no trump invitational, if they pass, they probably have 15, maybe 16 points. But if they bid 3 no, they have 17 or 16. So we can assume that the already kind of narrow range is even less wide, or even more narrow. So, and also if they bid no trump, especially if they bid it early on, they are normally balanced. However, if they bid a lot of bids back and forth and then eventually end up in no trump because they can't find a fit, that doesn't mean they have to be balanced. And then it might just be that they don't have a fit and it looks like no trump is the best option. So the earlier they bid no trump, the more likely it is that they are balanced. So let's look at an example here. We are sitting in south, and the bidding went 1 heart from west, 1 spade from east, 2 clubs, 2 hearts, 2 spades, and 3 hearts. So west has shown 5 hearts and 4 clubs and 3 spades, and probably around 15 to 17 high card points. So with 5 hearts, 4 clubs, and 3 spades, that's 12 cards. And that means West has a maximum of 1 diamond. So our partner leads a diamond, and they put low in dummy, and we win it with the queen. Now we have to figure out if we want to cash our ace or not. But since we already know that West has at most 1 diamond, there's no reason to try to cash our ace, because we just know it's going to get rough straight away. And of course, some people might just bid 2 hearts on the east hand straight away, and we wouldn't have that much information. But if we do get the information, we should be thankful and try and use it. So if we look at the whole board, then we see that if we try and cash our ace of diamonds, they can ruff that one, and then they can play ace, king of clubs, and club to ruff, and the king of diamonds discarding their club. And then we get 1 spade, 2 hearts, and 1 diamond, and that's it. And they get their 9 tricks. However, if we don't cash our ace of diamonds, what happens is they take ace, king of clubs, and a club to ruff, and now they have to ruff their way back, so probably play a diamond to ruff, and they want to ruff the last club as well. But when they're ruffing with the 9, we can over-ruff with the 10, and we're going to get a heart trick that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So now suddenly we get 1 spade, 3 hearts, and a diamond for 5 tricks and 1 down. So it's really important that we're not cashing our ace of diamonds. Because if we are, then they're going to make the contract. And we know that there's no point in doing that because we already know the distribution of West's hand. Most of the times we're not getting that much information about the distribution, but sometimes we do, and then just try and stop and think, especially if a declarer has bid a lot of suits. Try and figure out how many cards did they show and just count it up to 13. How many cards are left in the suits we don't know anything about. Then we're going to look at it from the declaring side, and there's a lot of the same things to look for. For example, if they didn't open, they usually are not that strong. But something that's more common when we are declaring is that the opponents have overcalled. So if they overcall, they usually either have a good suit or a good hand, or maybe both. But we do have to remember that an overcall on the 1 level is a lot more aggressive than the overcalls on the 2 levels. And also we have to remember that not everyone has the same style as us. So maybe we're thinking of a hand, and then we think, well, I never would have overcalled with that hand. Then they can't have that hand. But maybe they have a very different style from you, and they did. So just keep that a little bit in mind. Maybe some people have at least 13 points for overcalling on the 2 level. Other people have at least 10. There's differences in suit quality and things like that. So keep in mind that not everyone is bidding the same way as you. But still, if you're thinking, I never would have bid on this hand, then it is maybe less likely that they have that hand, and assume that they have something else, if that's possible. It's also more likely that opponents have a weak opening. And if they do, they usually have most of their points in the long suit. And also there's something called less vacant spaces. So that means if they already have a lot of cards in one suit, there's less spaces left, there's less cards left in their hand. So it's more likely that the long suit is in the other hand. So the first example here, East opened a spade, South bid 1 no, and North bids 3 no. So we're playing 3 no from South, and West leads a spade, which is expected because partner opened a spade. And we play low on dummy, and they put in the 9. Now, we have to win the king, because otherwise they can just cash our ace of spades and all the spades. So we're cashing the king of spades, and we're counting our tricks. So we have 1 spade trick, 1 heart trick, 2 diamond tricks, and 4 club tricks. That makes 8 tricks. However, we have the opportunity of taking the finesse in diamonds for 10 tricks if we're finding the finesse, and we could also just, if we give away a diamond trick, our last diamond will be good. However, if we let the opponents in, they're going to cash a lot of spade tricks and we're going down. So we have to find the diamonds here to make our contract. And the thing is, we can take the diamond finesse both ways, because we have all the middle cards in diamonds. So now we have to decide if we want to take it over East or over West. And obviously here we can see all the cards, so we know which way we're going to take it, but we're going to look at it either way. So let's think. East open 1 spade. And North-South in total have 28 hide card points. That means that we're only missing 12. And we can assume that a 1-spade opening is normally at least 11 high card points. So that means if they don't have the Queen of Diamonds, they only have 10. So I find it very likely that East has the Queen of Diamonds, so we should finesse over East, because East has open. So we can figure this out by just adding all our points, which is always a good idea. Once we see dummy, we add our points and dummy's points, and we figure out how much is missing. And if some of the opponents have bid, we can assume where those points are. So here we're gonna make our contract because we know where the Queen of Diamonds is. And then we're gonna look at a hand where opponents open a weak 2 bid. So East opens 2 spades and North-South gets 3 no. And then they lead Ace, King, and Queen of Spades and another spade. So now we have 1 spade trick, 1 heart trick, 2 diamond tricks, and 4 club tricks. Again, we have 8 tricks. But we have counted points, right? Because we know that East has Ace, King, Queen of Spades, we can assume that East doesn't have anything else. East might have a Jack, but probably nothing more, because then East would have opened 1 spade instead of 2 spades. So if we're going to solve the diamond suit here, normally we would play Ace, King of Diamonds and hoping that the suit is breaking 2-2, because that is the correct way of playing a suit with a 9-card fit. But however, here we have information that makes us play this suit differently. So because we assume that East does not have 11 high card points with their weak 2 opening, even red against green, that's very unlikely. So we assume that the Queen of Diamonds is in West, so here we play Diamond to the King and Diamond to the Jack, finessing up the Queen third of Diamonds. Here we can finesse it because we know that we can count points, but we're going to look at another example where we can't fully count the points, but I still want to take the finesse. So here East again opened 2 spades, and this time North-South got all the way up to 6 no trump. So they lead a spade to the ace and then the Queen of Spades, and we're going to count our top tricks. So we have 1 trick in spades, 2 in hearts, 2 in diamonds, and 4 in clubs, which would make 9 tricks in total, top tricks. However, if we can find the Queen of Diamonds, we can get 3 more diamond tricks for 12 tricks. So what we want to do here is we want to try and figure out how the suits are breaking. So we already know that East has 6 spades, and what we can do is we can try and play 4 rounds of clubs, and we just discard our spade loser in North, and we can see that East also has 3 clubs. So that's already 9 cards. And then we can try and take 2 rounds of hearts and seeing if East has any hearts. And East has at least 2 hearts. Unfortunately, we can't check if East has a 3rd heart unless we can trust that they are playing count and that they are playing correctly. And the fact that East has already shown 11 cards means that there's not really that many cards left. So now we can assume that probably East has another heart. It doesn't have to, but it seems a bit likely because West otherwise would have as much as 7 hearts. So we're not going to be sure, but the fact that there are less vacant spaces means that we want to finesse this. So the vacant spaces theory is that if we are missing, or if we know most of the cards in one of the hands, or maybe even in both of the hands, we want to assume that there's more cards in the suit we're missing where we know fewer cards. So with West, we know that they have 1 spade and 3 clubs and at least 2 hearts. So we don't really know that much about the hand. There's still 7 cards we are missing. Or I assume they discarded a heart, so I guess there's only 6 cards we're missing. And in the other hand, we're missing 2 cards. So there are a lot more space in the West hand for diamonds. So here we're going to assume that there's more diamonds in West's hand because we know that they have more space. So again, we're going to play diamond to the king and diamond to the jack. And now if the queen of diamonds is in east, we're going to go down a lot. We could, of course, safely play for 11 tricks by not cashing any tricks and then just assume that West has, or try and cash out the ace-king of diamonds, and if it doesn't, we give away a trick to West. But then we're getting 11 tricks and 6 no trump. That's a bad score. We really don't want that. So here we're doing our best to count out the hand and figure out how many cards East and West has, and then try and finesse. But even if we weren't able to count out the hand, so let's say we would have to play diamonds in trick 3, maybe we're playing 6 diamonds instead, so we have to play the diamond straight away, then we know that West has 1 spade and East has 6 spades. So again, there's a lot more vacant spaces in West than there is in East. So if no one has bid and we don't really know much about the hands, when we have a 9-card fit, we want to take ace and king of the suit. However, it's not a big difference between taking the finesse. So once we have any information that's skewing it towards the finesse, we want to go for the finesse instead. Because it's really not a big difference between the ace and the king and taking the finesse. So once East has showed 6 spades, we want to take the finesse over West. Again, here we could see all the cards, so it's looking obvious, but even without seeing all the cards, we probably should try and take the finesse here. So now we've been looking at what opponents' bids mean, but we can now actually also get quite a lot of information from what the opponents didn't bid. So this is a lot harder, but it's still possible to get some information from this. So for example, in the example we have here, our partner opens a diamond, East bids a heart, we double to show 4 spades, West passes, North bids 2 spades, and East passes, and it's our turn. So what information do we have from the bidding so far? Well, North has an opening hand and 4 spades and at least 3 diamonds, depending a little bit on what system we play. And East has overcalled the heart, so he probably has a decent 5-card suit in hearts and a little bit of points. And then East passed the second time, so it probably doesn't have a great hand, because with a lot of points, it probably would have bid once again. And we doubled, and we know our own hand, so we don't have to analyze that one. So that's all the bids we got. But we can also think about something else. Why didn't West bid something? Because West passed. So the fact that West passed probably means that they don't have 3 hearts. Because if they have 3 hearts, it's very likely that they would bid. They bid quite often with support. Some people would bid with even as little as 4 points. So the fact that West didn't bid probably means that they don't have support in hearts. Because our partner has a minimum hand, which they showed with 2 spades, and East didn't bid again, so East doesn't have a very maximum. Of course, we have almost an opening ourselves, so we do have some points ourselves. But it's looking more and more likely that West doesn't have support in hearts, because with support we bid a lot more often than without support. Of course, the analysis can be wrong, and it might just be that West is very weak and everyone else has a maximum for their bid. But we have to look at the most likely scenario here. And I think the most likely scenario is that West has only at most 2 hearts. And that makes it very likely that our partner has 3 hearts. And East is sitting behind North. So if North has any of their points in hearts, we're probably not going to get any of the tricks unless they have the ace, because we know that everything is going to be behind. And if North doesn't have anything, just have 3 small hearts, we already have 3 heart losers here. So we see that we have 11 high card points, and we know that we have support with partner. And if partner has a maximum, we probably want to be in game. But also we have to look at our hand. So we have a 4-3-3, we have super balanced hand, and we need partner to have absolutely maximum for a game to be good. And also nothing wasted in hearts and not that many losers in hearts probably. Because if we have 3 heart losers, I think it's going to be difficult to catch up all the other tricks in the other suits. Of course, it's possible, but it's looking less likely. So if we are unsure if we want to make an invite or not, we could look at the bidding. So the fact that West probably doesn't have support makes it more likely that partner has a lot of hearts and less likely that we are making game. So here, I might have actually just passed 2 spades, even with an 11 count, because I'm afraid we have a lot of heart losers. Another thing we can look at is, for example, if opponents showed 15 to 17, but they didn't open 1 no trump. What do we think? Well, we think that they are unbalanced. And then we have the fact that they didn't support our partner or their partner, like in the example here, or that they start with a pass and then bid later, even either a bid or a double. So here we have North opening 1 diamond, East passes, we bid a spade, West passes, North bids 2 spades, and East doubles. What do we think East has now? Well, now we have to think about why didn't they double the first time? Well, it's probably because they don't have a lot of spades. Because if they double the first time, they need to have quite a few cards in both majors. They need to be able to accept that partner bids a spade. So if they have only 2 spades, they're probably not going to double. And if they have only 1 spade, they're definitely not going to double unless they are very strong. So the fact that East passes and then comes back with the double is making it sound like East has a lot in hearts and clubs. But it's also different from East doubling here and West doubling in pass out. So if North had bid 2 spades, East had passed, we pass, and West doubles, then it might be that West is kind of weak, but wants to be in the bidding because they have something in the other suits and they want to get in. But here East is doubling before we passed. Our hand can still be very strong, so East is not going to double on nothing. So here East probably has around an opening hand and the 2 unbid suits, but short in spades. So it's making it more likely that the spades are breaking poorly. And it's also making it likely that several of the finesses is not going to be on if partner has anything to take a finesse in. So here we can also consider not bidding game, but we have to think about it. It doesn't have to be bad. Here I think it's more likely to bid here than on the other hand, because partner might not have as many hearts here. And then we can also get a lot of information from the leads, especially if someone is not doing as expected. So did they lead their partner's suit if partner bid a suit? If not, that's kind of weird because we normally lead partner's suit. And then did they lead our suit? Well, that's especially weird. That's making it more likely that they have a shortness in that suit. And did they lead an honor? Because if they led an honor, ask what type of leads they play and what cards did they deny. So, for example, in this example, let's say that West leads the Queen of Diamonds against a 3-no trump. So here we are afraid of letting East in, because if the Ace of Spades is in West, we are in trouble once we let East in. So the fact that they let the Queen of Diamonds, if they're playing just standard sequence leads, means that they are denying the King of Diamonds. So here we want to do our best to keep East out, so we want to duck the diamonds as many times as East ducks the diamonds. But if East at some point overtakes the diamond, we're going to overtake it as well, because we are terrified of letting East in. So normally we would try and duck the diamonds twice to make sure that they can't get to their last diamond, but here instead we want to duck it until East wins the trick, because once East takes the king, we have to be careful and not let East win the trick. And then we just have to find the club finesse to make sure that we are getting, we're making our contract. And then a lot of people like to lead trump against a slam. It's not something everyone does, and if they have a lead that makes a lot of sense, they're not going to do it. But if they have a difficult lead, most people tend to lead a trump. So if they're not leading a trump, maybe we have to think about why. Maybe they have the Queen of Trumps, or maybe they have a singleton, or something like that. So if we have absolutely nothing to go on and we're missing the Queen of Trumps, it's very normal to finesse it, not over, or over the partner of the leader, because over the leader, because they didn't lead the trump. We can also use this to our advantage and not lead a trump, hoping that they're gonna misguess the queen. And then, did they lead passive or active? Was it strange to lead active in this situation, or was it strange to lead passive in this situation? Maybe they didn't have a choice. Maybe you're thinking, here they're gonna lead something passive, then they lead something very active. Maybe it's because they just didn't have any passive leads in their hand. So try and think about that as well. And then we can also get some information from the declarer play. For example, did declarers start playing trumps, or did they start playing some other suits? If they started playing other suits, then maybe it's because they want to cross ruff, or maybe it's because they want to establish a suit and they want to have the trump as an entry later. And also we should try and look at whether or not the declarer has entry problems. And most of all, does the play look weird? Because if what opponents are doing looks very weird, so this goes both for the declarer play and for opponents, if it looks weird, maybe try and figure out why. Sometimes the opponents might just not have a good day and they're doing something that doesn't really make sense, but often it's because they have some cards in their hands that are making this play look not so weird from their perspective, so we have to try and figure out why they're doing it this way. So in this example, we can see that so North-South is playing 3-no trump, and we lead the Jack of Diamonds from West. And we can see that if they manage to establish our club tricks, they have a lot of tricks, because they have 3 spade tricks, 1 heart trick, 2 diamond tricks, and after they've given away 2 club tricks, they also have 4 club tricks. When they play a club, if we win with the king and we play another diamond, now we have established our diamonds, especially if we manage to not block them. That might very well happen. So still we can establish 2 diamond tricks and 2 club tricks, and that's 4. But what we have to do instead is we have to kill dummy. We have to make sure that South cannot get into dummy after winning, or after the clubs are good. So once we win our king of clubs, we have to switch to a heart to make sure that they have to win with the ace, and once the clubs are good, they can't really do anything about it. So here it's important to switch to a heart, because even if we keep playing our diamonds and we establish our diamonds, we're not getting enough tricks from that. So let's sum it up. First, we have to look in every single board, we have to look at what information did we get from the bidding. We're getting information both directly and indirectly. So some information we get by just looking at the bids, and some information we have to figure out by thinking, why didn't they bid this other way instead? And then we get information from the lead. The lead also usually gives actually quite a lot of information. And the lead is the least likely place where a player will lie. The later in the play we are, the more likely it is that the opponents are trying to deceive us. But in the lead, they usually don't know that much yet, so they're as honest as possible because they don't want to trick their partner as well. And then, can we get any information from the clearest plan? Are they trying to cross off here, or are they trying to establish a suit or something like that? What do we think they're doing? And then I know this has been a lot of different information, and trying to figure out everything is just not possible in the beginning. So we have to start to focus on the clearest things. If opponents have bid a lot of bids and given a lot of information, maybe we should try and set up a hand for them. But if they haven't bid much, maybe we don't have that much information. And also a good thing to start with is trying to count out the points we have and partner have every single time we are declaring. And if opponents bid, well, then we can assume that they have more points than if they hadn't bid. So if we have most of the points ourselves, maybe we can assume that the partner or the opponent that bid has most of the missing points. And if something looks really weird, try and figure out why. It's often that someone has a plan, but we just can't see it and it looks weird. And then once we can figure out, it might be too late to try and fix the plan or break the plan or whatever we're trying to do. So figure out what's going on if something looks weird. So that was the presentation, and I hope to see you all in the tournament. Thank you.